and you can see right where the bomb. Can you imagine just being in this city and all of a sudden missile comes screaming through the air, and what? Just a horrific. Good morning, welcome back. It's a little bit loud. I apologize for that. We are smack dab in the middle of Belgrade, Serbia. And so there is rush hour traffic behind me. And when I say rush hour traffic, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So this is definitely early for me. But we are up and we are moving today. So today we are headed to Niš, Serbia. It's about a 6-hour ride from here. And we've got a couple stops that I want to make. A couple of them here in Belgrade to go see real quick. And they're going to be drive-bys. Not going to get out, not going to stop, not going to do anything, but just a quick drive-by. And then I think we're going to see one thing in Niš, and we'll call Niš our resting place for the night. The weather looks phenomenal. There's not a cloud in the sky, and it looks beautiful, and it's like 75 degrees, so it's gorgeous. So we're gonna have a beautiful ride today. Anyway, let's get on the road and let's get moving. So we are headed to the former Yugoslavian government building that was bombed by NATO in 1999. So one of the old government buildings. It's still in the middle of Belgrade. So let's make our way there. So I wanted to come, I find this fascinating. I wanted to come to the, they call it a memorial, but it is the old Yugoslavian government building that was bombed by NATO in 1999. You can see the building behind me here, and then also this building across the street. You can definitely see where the bomb actually hit. And so Serbia has decided to keep the buildings as a memorial towards the bombings by NATO, and as a reminder of the atrocities that were inflicted upon Belgrade at the time. I find it really interesting in the fact of, I get the war memorial, right? Every conflict by nature has multiple sides to it. I get the wanting to remember the war and kind of memorialize it, but also it's kind of a weird thing because the ex-Yugoslavian president was convicted of war crimes, and so, you know, I don't know if the NATO bombing was justified, was not justified. I don't know enough. I don't even know enough to have an opinion, but I find it fascinating that the Serbian government has decided to leave the buildings as a memorial. So it's definitely a scar on the city, but I get the importance and the relevance. So it's interesting that they decided to leave it. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you. So what is also interesting is that they've left them, but yet they don't have pictures taken of it. So as I was wrapping up filming and I had just turned off the camera, a security guard, military security, came up and said, "You're finished." She was very nice about it, right? Nothing mean. She was very nice, but they apparently don't want pictures of it. So that's interesting to me as well. Anyway, fascinating history, fascinating world events, and interesting to come see and explore. Let's get on the bike. We've got one more thing here kind of close to town, and it's still relevant to the 1999 bombing. So let's go see that real quick. That is pure drive-by. I'm not gonna get out, and then we'll get on the road. Super interesting that these buildings are right downtown And they don't want pictures taken of. And you can see right where the bomb. Can you imagine just being in this city and all of a sudden this missile comes screaming through the air and hits that? What? Just a horrific. Well, Belgrade, you were incredibly interesting. Fascinated about your history, fascinated about the conflicts. I knew people were so friendly. Thank you. We are definitely winding our way back here. It is not as easy to get to the Avala Tower as I thought. Other place we decided to stop and I decided to actually get off is Avala Tower. A couple things about this, it's super interesting. One, it's called Avala Tower. It is a radio broadcast tower, and while we're in a park, it has a direct line of sight and broadcast angle down to Belgrade, and it is for, I think, the national broadcasting company within Belgrade. Another interesting part about Avala Tower is this was involved in the NATO bombings of 1999. So when NATO bombed the government buildings in Belgrade, it didn't slow down the atrocities that Serbia was inflicting on Kosovo. It actually made it worse. And so in order to try to achieve the objective, they decided to start targeting soft targets or dual purpose targets, bridges, roads, and communication systems. So they ended up bombing Avala Tower, and they took out I understand they took out one of its legs, and the whole thing crumbled. This has been rebuilt and it's now used, and there's a observation deck on top. But super interesting that this was kind of phase 2 of the 1999 NATO bombings, that they went after the dual purpose targets. So this is Avala Tower. So seeing Avala Tower was interesting just in the fact of that it was also part of the 99 NATO bombing, and that it's been rebuilt. Yet the government building has not been rebuilt. So interesting. Let's get back on the road. I was putzing around on the maps and I found someplace else to drop by. It might be a little bit out of the way, but it's probably only 30 minutes, 45 minutes out of the way, and it's something that might be interesting. So I generally don't go to monuments. There's monuments all over the world, and unless there's a really interesting story behind it that I know, to me it just turns into a big block of concrete or a statue. But this one might have a story, so let's go. So we are in a town called Gornji Milonovac, and we came in to get gas. I actually think this is a fairly good-sized town. It's diesel, benzene. Green usually means benzene. We're gonna go with it. It's good. Let's pull this out of the way. 3099. Call it 3100. Let's just. We just got gas and we are back on the road to a quick stop. It's a monument, which I normally don't stop at monuments, but this one has a kind of a unique, kind of an interesting story. And we're only 20 kilometers from it, so let's go there. So we're in a town called Čačak, and I was going to go to the Čačak Mausoleum of Struggle and Victory. There, which I thought were outside, but I don't see them, was a monument that's been built that's got three towers with 600 faces that were built into the tower. And all these faces were mythical creatures. And so a couple of interesting things about it were, one, it's just huge. There's three towers with these mythical creatures that were embedded in it, or that are designed in it. But two, they talk about the design and how at the time monuments were being built with multiple elements that didn't touch. So this one had three huge elements to it that did not all touch. And so the way they surmise it was, in Yugoslavia it was built, they had multiple elements of a single unit. So meaning you would have multiple elements that didn't necessarily touch, so they were all individualistic. However, you bring them together and they create a bigger whole. Kind of like Yugoslavia, because Yugoslavia was built by 6 different countries. The other interesting element, that because the mausoleum and the monument is in the middle of town, that it's actually not taken care of right now, and it's not being maintained by the Serbian government, and so it is starting to decay with a lot of graffiti on it. And so it's interesting that at one point it was such an important element of Yugoslavian history, but now it is a reminder of a bygone era. So super interesting story behind it. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it. So, but let's get out of Čačak and let's get on the road. We got about 2 hours and 48 minutes till we get to our next stop. And that will get us there about 3:15, and they close at 4, and I really want to see this. A1 coming out of Badocina, and we are about to get on the toll road. So, okay. It's just as fast. $260. You know what? Let's just let's give him that. Thank you. Painless. So we are coming into Niche. I don't think I realized, especially those look beautiful. I don't think I realized how close we were to the mountains. They look stunning. Just with the ragged peaks, and there's still snow up there. So we're in Niche, Serbia, and we came to Skull Tower. So the story goes. Oh, I thought it was just inside. There was no videos. Okay, so I'm gonna have to show you Skull Tower this way. So the story goes, 1809 was a pivotal point in the first Serbian uprising against the invading Ottoman Empire, or also known as the Turkish Empire. The outnumbered Serbian army faced a Turkish army of over 36,000 soldiers. Instead of retreating, the Serbian army decided to continue to fight for their land and independence. However, the Serbian army was so outnumbered, they were facing a grim death at the hands of their invaders. So the Serbian commander, Stevan Sinđelić, in an act of desperation and patriotism, fired a shot into the gunpowder keg in a fully stocked ammunition room, blowing up his entire army, as well as wiping out enemy soldiers who were nearby. This angered the Turkish commander, Hershid Pasha, losing some of his fighters, so he decided to teach a grim lesson to the Serbian nation. The bodies of the dead soldiers were mutilated, and their decapitated heads, stuffed with straw, were sent to the imperial court in Istanbul as proof of the victory. The skulls were then returned to Serbia and used as building blocks for a tower built by the main road at the entrance of the city as a warning to the local population against any potential future rebellions. So the tower, built in 1809, was 15 feet tall and used 952 skulls arranged in rows on each side of the tower, with the Serbian commander's skull placed on top. So Stevan Sinđelić is now considered a hero and a sacred name for all Serbs. How cool is that? So I have been run off twice today. First time in Belgrade, taking a picture of the government building that was bombed, and two, Skull Tower. Anyway, but you saw the skulls, they're very cool. We found our Airbnb, and let's go check in. So we are only 2 kilometers away. So I forgot to close yesterday's video. I got to my Airbnb, got to working, and next thing I know, it was 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, oh, so I forgot to close it. Yesterday was such a cool day to be told to shut off the videos. This is kind of really the first time I've ever been told to shut off the videos. Super interesting. From the bombings to leaving it there as a memorial to, Slobodan Milosevic being convicted of war crimes. Just a super interesting story. And then getting to Niche and seeing the Skull Tower. That is cool. It's kind of creepy, but it's neat to understand the history and the process and the thought processes they were going through at the time, the Ottoman Turks. So very interesting. But I'm gonna end last night's video this morning, and I hope you liked it, and I will see you guys later. See ya.